Hello, I'm Claire Carlson. I'm the Education Program Coordinator at Historic Deerfield, and I'm bringing you today's episode of Celebrating Our Ambassadors, which is a celebration of our volunteers who help with programs and events at Historic Deerfield. Today, I will be speaking with Liz Tonne from Shutesbury, who's been working with us, helping to maintain and weed the Cook's Garden. Hi, Liz, how are you?
Hi, Claire. Good, thank you.
Can you tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a volunteer at Historic Deerfield?
Sure. I am a musician, but I have also always done gardening and landscape design as a sort of current interest that has gone along with being a musician. So I have worked for a couple different landscape designers in the Boston area many years ago when I was living out that way, and um, and ha- I have actually taken many classes at the Landscape Institute and through the New England Wildflower Society. So it's definitely a very strong interest of mine. And actually, during the COVID crisis, since I wasn't able to work at the Hearth Cook's Garden, and I have been working on my own garden for about 3 months. So I actually have started doing a little bit of landscape consulting for people in my area here in
Nice.
Tewksbury.
So let me tell our viewers a little bit about the Cook's Garden, and then we can talk about how you became involved with volunteering. So the Cook's Garden supports the Open Hearth Cooking Program, and it sits behind Hall Tavern, and it is dedicated to the memory of Margaret Quinn Orlowski, who was a member, and she lost her life on September 11th in the World Trade Center. So her family decided to have a living memorial, and the Cook's Garden lives on, and we keep it growing full of heirloom herbs, some vegetables, and some annual flowers that support the cooking program. And also is a lovely place for visitors to come and pause and reflect. During the COVID-19, we haven't been able to have you come and volunteer because the grounds of Historic Deerfield are closed, and we will be opening to the public in early September. So while the grounds have been closed, I've been going and weeding and watering once a week just to make sure everything is still um, growing and doing okay. So it's kind of having a little bit of a rest. So our garden is having a rest this summer while yours seems to be gearing up. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about how you became involved with working as a volunteer at Historic Deerfield? How did you find out about us and know and learn about the Cook's Garden?
Sure. So I used to live in Greenfield, right down the road from historic Deerfield, and um, it, I used to take family members to historic Deerfield if they would be visiting, or sometimes in the fall, especially around Halloween. My daughter and I used to go to Deerfield almost every year to buy pumpkins
Mm,
and to look at the giant pumpkins in the neighborhood there.
yeah.
And it was just sort of a extension of our lives in Greenfield to go to historic Deerfield. And we also knew a few people who were teachers at Deerfield Academy and lived there
Mm-hmm.
on the campus. So we were there also occasionally to visit friends. So I was pretty familiar with what was going on there. And then my family and I moved away to Texas for a few years. And when we came back, I I wasn't working yet, and I just had some free time and really just wanted to get gardening and
Mm.
kind of connect with people through gardening, which is something that I love to do. So I approached Julie, um, because I met her through the Pioneer Symphony Choir,
Hmm.
and she gave me your name and said, "Call Claire. She'll let you work in the garden." So that's how that all came to pass.
Great. And now, thanks for telling us that story. So, what's your favorite part about the Cook's Garden when you're there? Do you have a favorite section you like weeding in or working? Do people come and chat with you while you're there?
Yeah, people do stop by. Um, it's interesting to be working there on the campus. I am kind of just still getting to know the garden, because it seems like there's a number of perennials and a number of annuals, and it changes a little bit. So I wouldn't say that I have a favorite at this point because I'm still learning about it. But in the time that I was working there, I found it really interesting because people always wanted to talk to me about it. And I sort of had to do a crash course in learning about the garden
Right. Yeah, because you've
because,
just really just started volunteering with us, and then last season, and then because of COVID, we weren't able to open up for the spring. So,
yeah.
so you'll see when you come back in the fall, hopefully to volunteer once the grounds are open again, is that we haven't planted any annuals this year. We're letting those parts of the garden just rest for the season, and just again keeping it maintained and watered. But it'll need some more TLC in the
Hmm.
fall when we reopen again. Um, is there any questions you have for me or anything else you want to say?
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're planning on opening again in September. That was my main question.
Yeah,
When are you going to open? So
yeah.
that's great, and I'm happy to know that. I Do you think you're going to put more annuals in the fall, or do you think this year you will just let it kind of rest again as far as that goes?
I think our long-term plans are is to do some amendment of the soil. We're going to order a mix of soil and compost from Bear Path Farm. He actually ran out of it in the spring because so many home gardeners are gardening this year, and we're gonna do some doctoring. We're gonna to give the soil some TLC, and we might do a few fall things in pots just to add a little variety, add some, usually we put in a rosemary plant, for example, in the summer, but you can't leave it in the ground over the winter. So we'll bring that back out and spiff it up a little bit for the fall
Hmm.
for our
Yeah,
visitors. And because we're going to do, hopefully focus on outdoor experiences, we will make sure all the plants are labeled and invite people to come stop by when they're in town.
that sounds
So,
good.
and maybe they'll see you when you're up
Yeah.
volunteering for a day.
Yes, I learned to always wear my badge
Yes,
because sometimes people would want to stop and talk with me, and then I realized, oh, I have to wear my volunteers badge all
yes,
the time, even though I'm getting dirty and whatever, because otherwise people don't really know what I'm doing there.
right.
Um,
Good. Well,
so
hopefully you still have your badge, and if you don't, we'll get you another one when you come back.
I still have it.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to scroll and show a few more photos. So I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but
Yes.
to the left, that's one of our tour guides. Her name is Eileen Mahar, and she's standing holding a basket of freshly picked herbs, showing a visitor. So hopefully we'll be doing that in the fall
Oh, good.
when
Okay.
people come back.
Great.
All right, Liz. Well, thanks for chatting with us today, and I'm gonna